So actually, I was looking into the beetles a little bit more, and one of the things I noticed when I took a look at those trees is that there's a ton of slash at the base of them, just old debris that had fallen out, and people had just stacked up near them, which is like the worst possible thing you could do for pine trees with beetle infestations, because they'll actually reside in that slash, and you're just kind of breeding more and more bugs that way. One of the best things that homeowners could do with their trees is just improve their current living conditions. Even simple things like adding mulch around the base of the tree to help regulate soil moisture and temperature. Supplemental watering through the extra dry periods in the summer. There's soil amendments that can be added in. When it comes to really high value trees, and by high value tree, that doesn't have to mean a huge tree that is technically worth a lot of money. It can just be high value to you. It can be sentimental value. It can just be a tree that you've really grown attached to. We can proactively treat those for beetle infestations. We've got a couple of different options. We offer bark sprays, soil treatments. The one that I prefer, because it's the most contained, is actually a trunk injection. And so we're going to be doing quite a few of those this upcoming month here. We start around February. Hopefully we'll get some more so we can make sure we keep some of these big pines. And it looks like these are definitely those dead pine trees.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, look at them all. They're super dead. And so we're going to be taking these out under our contract with the city of Shoreline.
That's right. Something as small as a beetle can start taking out
and they're tiny, right?
Yeah, most of the beetles that we're dealing with are, they're about 5 millimeters up to maybe 7 or 8 millimeters in length. So they're really small. They're like kind of like the size of a grain of rice, really. They're very, very small. So.
Such a pest, though. I mean, look at the destruction that they're doing.
Yeah,
well, should we get out there and see if we can confirm that that's what we're looking at with these trees?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's take a look.
I mean, look at this sidewalk. This was such a huge project. All of these trees were slated for removal in order to make an accessible sidewalk along the side of Dayton here. And so they've got this cool raised sidewalk so they could protect the trees and leave them in place, which I'm sure is a huge benefit to all the neighbors that live across the street. Sure looks like beetle infestation.
Yeah.
The telltale signs, would you say, are just the way that the branches are dying off? And
it's the beetles actually, when they attack a tree, you typically see this really, really red kind of color. It's a little bit different from when a tree just dies, due to kind of more normal factors.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they'll just go kind of yellow to brown. These really have that kind of distinct sort of red color to them. Easy to overlook. Most people aren't looking up at their trees every day either. They're enjoying them from the ground. They're enjoying the shade. For the most part, people don't do a whole lot of active monitoring of the trees. So
such an important thing to do, right? That full scan from top to bottom. And now tell me, when you see just maybe one lateral branch that has that telltale red to it, is that an early sign oftentimes of the beetle?
I would say if you ever see at least one branch or even more kind of go that color, it's good to have somebody out just to take a look.
What type of pine trees are most susceptible to the beetle?
So it really varies. There's a couple of beetles that are really species specific, like Western pine beetle is a little more specific. They'll be going after ponderosa pine, lodgepole pine. One of the more common types, like a turpentine beetle, an Ips beetle, those are kind of opportunistic, and they'll pretty much go after just about any type of pine tree.
Seems to me like we started to see it most predominantly with Western white pines a few years back.
Yeah, Western white pines, even Scots pines, we've seen a lot of damage in those too, and they're pretty prevalent everywhere, really.
And so we're going to start treatments up in February, right?
Yep, probably like mid-February we'll start and try to time it correctly so we get good efficacy.
And does the timing have to do with the life cycle of the pest as well?
For pines, it's actually a little bit more about the tree biology and just the movement of sap up the tree as it starts to warm up. You can do injections kind of at different times in the year for them, but it's just much better to kind of time it with that sap flow as it moves up. So you get really good distribution through the tree and kind of just the most effective time period to do it. So we try to do all of ours at the best time that we can. You know, we'll do them whenever we need to outside of that window, but we really try to make sure everybody gets their treatment at just the right time.
And how long will that treatment protect the trees for?
So it'll be about 2 years. So every couple of years we'll come back through and redo it, and you know, that gives the tree time to compartmentalize from those wounds, because we are going to be drilling holes into the base of the tree. So it's a little bit of damage to hopefully prevent a lot of damage.
Yeah. What a worthwhile investment in saving a prized pine tree. Well, should we get over to one of the trees and see if we can find the source of the problem?
Yeah, let's take a look.
This is just a one-day project, right?
It is. Yeah, we're actually going to have 4 climbers out here.
Oh, okay.
There's going to be a climber in each tree, so we're going to get them all on the ground really quickly, eliminate any kind of danger from the process. And then we've got our great grapple trucks that'll be out here parked along the side, and they're going to clean up all the debris. We'll remove all that excess slash that was just left back there.
Yeah, I can see it through there.
Yeah, just branches and just debris that's fallen out of the trees over the years.
Breeding grounds for those darn beetles.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You know, underneath this, so this is kind of the inner bark here. This is what they're feeding on. You can see little signs like that. It's part of a gallery that we've pulled off. And this is really, really important to the trees. Okay, so this one really kind of shows some of this damage. You can see in here, these are just all the little galleries, just the little tunnels that these beetles are chewing away and creating. This is some of the frass that they leave behind, some of the droppings. So in this little section of bark here, this is one of those galleries that they've created right here. This is a little network of them where right now it's completely filled with just boring dust. So if you scrape that out, you really just kind of expose some of these tunnels. And it's often in a fan-shaped pattern. A lot of different beetles will actually have different patterns. So sometimes you can ID them just based off of what those galleries look like. Some of them, you know, almost always start by going down with a primary tunnel, and then they kind of fan out laterally. Others will always go up. It's kind of tough to find these because, like we were talking about, they're only a few millimeters in length. So right there is actually where the actual exit hole is. And basically the adults are, you know, they're emerging in the springtime to fly off to a different tree or a different pile of logs, whatever. So they come out, and this is just a response of the tree. So the tree's pushing out all this pitch. That's really its main defense. Pine trees have a lot of pitch in them, and whenever something penetrates their bark, that's their first line of defense, is they try to just push it back out. So in this case, you've got the beetles actively coming out. Followed right behind that is the tree's defense, just trying to push out more resin to try to seal that up and keep them out. But some species, like a turpentine beetle, they typically infest only the lower, maybe 8 feet or so of the trunk, and they leave really, really prolific pitch tubes. They're typically pink in color, so depending on the type of beetle, you can just spot it from, you know, sometimes you can be like 50 yards away, you see it, a dead tree, the top has gone red, similar to most beetle kill, and then you look toward the base and you see just this really noticeable pink pitch tubes just all over. And then another thing you can look for, right in this crevice here, this is more of that boring dust or that frass left behind by the bugs. So as far as you know, as a homeowner goes, that might be the thing that they want to look for, is just to come out and look like a weirdo and have a really close-up look at the tree bark and look for this little red frass all over the place.
Gosh, people probably just have no idea.
Yeah.
Have you heard of any outreach from the city or any, like from Shoreline or Seattle? Or
I haven't heard of any particular outreach for really any kind of pest issues. I think Seattle is just starting to do a little bit of work with emerald ash borer, an invasive beetle that's moving up from Oregon. But so far I've not heard anything about any kind of pine beetle. Even bronze birch borer isn't really talked about too much. So homeowners are kind of just on their own to work with their local arborist and figure out what's going on and what they need to be doing.
We've got to get the word out there more.